Welcome to Jack Fleming Artistry. This is a video or the first of many videos where I'm going to start practicing scroll striping. I'm not very good at scroll striping, so I thought you guys might want to join along on the journey. Maybe you're trying to learn scroll striping yourself, and we can learn some things together. Let's get started. Alright, quickly go over the materials I have here. Let's get these brushes out of the way. I'm practicing on a painted piece of metal. This was a Big Tech sign, trailer company. The back of it's clean, painted surface. I've been told it's better to stripe on that for scroll striping than it is to stripe on glass. And I've gotten frustrated before on glass, so we're going to try it on this. Maybe we'll try glass again later. I have an assortment of brushes here. Some of my favorite stripers that do scrolls use these Dago brushes. I've got some long handled ones and a short handled one here. We'll try them both, see what we like. I have a Wizard Vortex. Give that one a shot. It's got a long handle, kind of like that Dago, a little bit different. Let's see, what size are these? One's a 0, one's a 2. I have a Twister from Alpha 6. I believe, yeah, this one looks like it's synthetic hairs. I believe these are natural hairs. I've seen people stripe with, and I've played around with the Virus 2, and I've liked it in the past better than the natural hair ones, but we're going to give them both a shot. I've also got a Alpha 6 Snake Bite, which is a liner, but I know that you can scroll with liners, or I've seen people do it successfully. And I thought I might try a couple of these Tidwell brushes and see if they'll work for it. I'm trying to figure out what brush is going to work best for me. Other materials I have here, I've got some paint that's left over from the project I'm working on at the moment. I'm waiting on it to dry, so this is a good time for me to use up the rest of that paint. I have my normal palette. My cup here has One Shot high temp reducer in it right now. Summertime, it's kind of hot. Got something to palette on, and I've got some glass cleaner here at the moment. I need to clean my surface one more time. Not the cleanest rag. I wouldn't clean a customer's car with this, but I'll clean this with it since it's just practice. Other things I have on hand, I have mineral spirits to clean my brushes and to clean paint off of this. But let's go ahead and start. Alright, so I'm going to start off with this size 2 Lightsaber Pro Series from Dago. Get me some paint here, and I'm just getting paint out of my cup. I'm not paletting in the cup for this. I'm going to palette here. I like using old magazines, or I actually get these here locally. They're like an art gallery magazine. They've got really nice paper. That seems well paletted. I've been told, and it's been my experience, that it's better to try and scroll with your paint thinned a lot, but let's start off without it, just so we've got a basis to begin. I'm gonna hold the brush like I've seen people hold it and just give it a shot here. I imagine this is going to be too thick. Let's go up in this corner so we've got plenty of room to work. Pulling a pretty thin line at the moment. This is a size 2. Okay. You can see hair strokes. I'm assuming that'll go away if I thin it. And I'm just starting with kind of a spiral. So let's thin that. That feels a lot thinner. Let's go a little bit more. I can still feel some drag. I'm going to thin it until I don't feel a lot of drag, just barely any. Try that. Okay, same thing here. Right now I'm not trying to invent designs, I'm trying to get a feel for the paint, get a feel for the brush. Okay, this is definitely thinner, moving all over the place on me. And I'm still seeing marks from hairs and stuff. My paint, or my line, seems to be going from thick to thin a little bit. I'm going to try one more with this brush, and then I'm going to switch to another brush and see if there's a difference. Let's try thinning that a whole lot. That feels almost like melted butter on a hot skillet. I still feel a little bit of drag on my panel here. See, to me, I don't feel like these hairs are doing what I think they should be doing for scrolling. But again, I'm not used to scrolling, so I don't really know. It's a really fat line. Is it possible for me to make a skinnier one with it that thin? So my control's not very good. I'm used to twisting a brush when I'm trying to make a curve. Always been told you don't have to do that with scrolling. Kind of feels like I need to, though. Maybe that's just me. Let's do it once and try to like twist the brush and see what happens here. To me, practicing and learning something new is all about messing around and finding out. Come up with an idea of what's going to work. I gave this a little bit of twist in my thumb, and to me, I feel like I've got a little more control. I don't know. Let's try another brush. Alright, this time I'm going to try the longer handled. Here's the one I was using before. Okay, shorter handle. The longer handled lightsaber. This is a size 0. That was a size 2. I noticed that the hairs are shorter on the size 0, as well as being thinner. Let's give that one a shot. I'm trying to find what works well for my hand, so we'll see how this works. Get my paint again. I'm just going to get new paint, palette in a new spot. I've watched a ton of people scroll before, and I've noticed people do a couple of different things whenever they scroll. Some of them do have their pinky, which I've always felt awkward with the pinky on the surface. It's just, I don't know, just me. I've seen some people with the fist, and I do this a lot of times when I'm doing lettering, and maybe that's where that comes from. That feels more natural to me, so that's what I'm going to do. I don't know that one's right and one's wrong. In my opinion, there's not really a lot of what's right and what's wrong. There's a lot of what works for you. So let's try this. Basically the same design here. I think I like the longer handle better. My hand feels less cramped. Slowing down, I think, is helping. That one doesn't look too bad. My paint is pretty thin again. Let's try again. Kind of going slow. These hairs seem to be moving more like I assume the hairs would. I don't know if the hairs in that other brush I had or maybe weren't cleaned out good at one point in time or whatnot, but they didn't seem to really move with the brush as well as I had hoped they would. Now I did clean that other brush out using mineral spirits, and immediately after getting it good and clean, I oiled my brush. This feels better. Again, part of what I'm after right now, though, is trying out different brushes. So I don't know how many times I want to keep trying. I'm just going to go over some of these other ones. I don't really mind. I like the longer handle. Kind of fast that time. See if there's a difference between going fast and slow. These kind of look like ears. When I'm drawing cartoons, my ears look like this sometimes. I need to slow down on my stop there. Let's go slow this time. Sometimes when I slow down with paint, I feel like I have more control. And when I end this time, I'm not going to end fast. I'm going to bring it to a stop. I tried lifting it up like that. I don't know if you could see, but that's pretty ugly ending there. Let's try one more thing real quick. I see people go push down, start off thick, and then lift up and get thin. I don't know why I tried to avoid that other line. I don't really need to. Let's go thick again. I see people do that. Now that starting off thick and starting off thin seems to give me more control on my starting point. Makes it look a little better. Let's practice that real quick. So I'm going to push to get it thick, raise up to make it thin, and let's actually end thin. Okay, it's not the cleanest that I've seen. Might have to do with how I'm paleting. Let's try that again right next to it. This time we'll slow down, kind of drag it a little bit more. Now I feel like with that looks better, but at the same time I know I'm not up on the tip. Let's see if we can get more up on the tip faster. Push, come up, get on that tip. Oh, my hairs are splitting at the end there again. Before we get going too much farther into this panel, I think I might go ahead and switch brushes again. Let's try, I've been starting here and going up. Let's try going the opposite way. That actually has more control for me. My corners seem janky. Right there, it looks ugly. I'm going to get more paint on my brush. Palette that thinner. See what happens if I do the same moves that I did there. I'm paleting really fast, so I'm getting air bubbles in my paleting. If I slow down, I usually don't have that. Okay, so we were coming down instead of up. I don't know if my hand is in the way of the camera here or not. There's that hair kicking out again. Let's stop with that fat. Interesting. See if you guys can get a better look of what's going on these. Maybe I should keep the camera down here more for you. Try that with these next ones. Alright, so that last brush was the Dago Pro Series lightsaber size 0. I'm going to stick with the light or a size 0 long handled like the other one was. These handles are almost identical in length. This is a size 0. The hairs are a little longer. This is the Wizard Vortex, and they're lighter in color, and I feel like they're a little softer. So let's try that. Get my paint again. Now, I've already washed any old oil out of this. You guys can't see what's going on there. There we go. Paleting. Wanting to get that paint into these hairs. This is interesting. These hairs don't seem to be moving with the paint as much as they did on the Dago. which I would have thought they'd move more since they feel softer. They almost feel fuller, like they're holding more paint. I'm not sure the difference in the hair between these two brushes. Man, that feels different paletting wise. Okay, let's see if it feels different doing this. Let's do that same first shape that we started with. Kind of ear looking shape. Now, not only am I trying different brushes every time, I'm also trying to control my hand better each time. Wow, I actually like that a lot better. The feel of that is way different. Way different. It almost feels like it's grabbing the surface more, like there's a little bit more drag to it or something. And I can see the hairs kind of twisting up as I spin around. Now, I got my paint a lot thinner this time than I did that last move. Man, it feels better. To me. Might not feel better to someone else. My lines don't really look any better, but the feeling is different. So, softer hair versus a more coarse hair. Try and see if I can get a thinner line. I don't see hairs kicking out like they were with the other one. I know my line's pretty wobbly right there. It's clean on the inside and wobbly on the outside. I've seen that happen with lettering, which is a lot of times why I focus on one side of the letter and then the other, because I can make sure that that one side's doing good. I think that the pressure is more even on this inside part and kind of almost skipping on the outside part. Let's try this thick to thin stuff. Ooh, I might have my paint way too thin. I don't know, let's just kind of play around here a little bit and see. Because it's really thin. Yeah, that's like almost soupy feeling. You can see the paint breaking up a little bit on its edge because it's over thinned. So what I'm going to do to combat that in my paletting over here, that reducer will come out, but I'm going to come back over where I paletted before, where the reducer has come up. Palette back into that little bit thicker paint. Sometimes that thickens it up on the brush. Alright, let's we went up, let's go down. That starting down felt better before with the other brush. It feels better with this brush. I still don't think my paint's the right consistency. Let's I don't know, let's try something thin to thick, back to thin. And part of experimenting and learning something is going to be playing around. You can try anything one time, it's going to be so good. Try it again. That one actually looks better. I don't like the ending. Let's try it again, see if we can get a better ending. Maybe if I slow down on that ending. I don't know. It's a little better ending. Not the best. Let's see. I'm liking the hairs on this one a lot better. Let's, I don't know. We tried kind of all those things already with the other brush. Let's go thick, thin, and end with thick again. Thick. Try to get those loops. I messed up horribly there. Come back and try to end thick. Don't like the ending on that at all. I've got to do it again until I get to where I kind of like it. Did not like that. I didn't like a lot about that line. Maybe we can do something better this time. Similar deal. I think my paint might be close to being too thin there, but it looks better than the last one did. Okay. Thick. Thin. Thick. Up. I don't know. We're just goofing around here. If you're practicing, it is okay to just play around and try and figure out a feel for what you're doing. Not to say that there's a right way, or well, I don't really know. There probably is a wrong way to practice. If you're practicing the same stuff over and over again and they're not moves that you're actually going to use and you're just kind of goofing around and not trying to make each line better, that's probably not a great way to practice. Consistently trying to get better with the same kind of thing, knowing it's something you're going to use, probably a lot better. I'm going to try a figure 8 kind of deal real quick. I don't know how I want to start that. Maybe thin, thick, back up and around, back, up. Let's go thick again, end on the outside. It's kind of nice. I'm going to try another brush. Alright, I cleaned that brush out, and I got to tell you, whenever I oiled it up, man, the hairs feel so much softer than they did on the Dago. I'm trying next this Alpha 6 twister, and when I clean the oil out of this one, the hairs on it are a lot stiffer and they almost feel coarse in a way. So let's try it out, see if that helps us. Let's move our practice panel down a little bit here. Okay, give me some paint. Kind of getting to the bottom of this paint here. So I probably won't practice too much longer. I think today my goal on this is just to figure out which brush I'm liking the feel of, and then I'm going to keep making videos of me practicing scrolls. That way, I don't know if you want to learn along with me or just watch my progress or whatnot, you can check that out. These are probably kind of long because I'm doing it in real time. Could probably do this as a live video. I've never done one of those. Okay, we're going to try our ear shape again. And boy, this felt stiffer whenever I cleaned them, but they feel like they have way more control. These are synthetic hair, I know that. Man, that felt like I had way more control. I've found in the past that with synthetic hairs and doing this kind of stuff, I do feel like I have more control, and this is definitely the case. I did not expect that though, with these feeling as stiff as they do. Oh my, this feels way more natural to me. And there's some shakiness in that line there on the outside. I don't think it's as much in my hand as it is in how I'm paleting the paint. Let's try it a little thinner. See if we can get rid of drag and see where that is. Over thin it, I guess. Start there, and then we can always come back and be not quite as thinned. Okay, so this is way thinner. But even though it's way thinner, I still feel drag on my panel. I feel like I have way more control with this than I did the natural hair brushes whenever I really thinned it out. I'm going to try and thin it out to the point to where it's like soup, just to see how much control I have. We're experimenting. That is feeling really slick on my palette. Okay. And I gotta tell you, it's putting out a fatter line, but even though it's really slick here, I'm not getting the hairs kick out like I did with the Dago. I feel like my line's staying a little bit more consistent in thickness than it was with that last brush. I think I'm liking synthetic, y'all. Apologize if my voice sounds a little rough. Let's try that thick stuff. Ooh, that felt good. Huh. Let's do the old thick, pulled into thin, pulled into thick. Feels so much better. Let's try thin to thick to thin. Boy, I gotta tell you right now, if I had to choose a brush out of the ones I've tried so far, this is the one I think I'm gonna practice with. Now I've got 4 more brushes over here I plan on trying. Oh, one more thing that we tried with the others that we haven't tried yet, and that is, rather than pushing up to start, coming down and starting. Let's do it right here. Let's see, my hand feels too high right there. Let's go. I like the control on this brush. I wish, however, that the handle was longer like it is on that last brush. This is one of those short handles like the first one we started off with. So, with that said, I think I'm going to try the other alpha brush next, which was the snake bite. And it's not a scroll brush. The hairs look different on it. But it is, I think, the same kind of hairs, maybe. Actually, it might not be. These are synthetic too, though. So let's try it next. Okay. So in the past, I've done some customer jobs where I had to do some scrolls. And honestly, I've used this brush before for that and liked it. I'm just real quick before thinning it out. I'll just give it a shot up here without thinning it out. I really do like the longer handle, I think. So I've lettered with this brush too, and I think that might be where I'm comfortable with it. And I feel like I can get a consistent-ish thin line. Let's try that again. This time, let's make that paint thinner. Remember, I'm reducing with high temp, one-shot reducer, using one-shot paint here. This is a custom color that I mixed to match some other paint. But this feels easy to control to me. However, versus that last brush, my line started kind of getting out of paint, and I felt that on the other ones too. That other one seems to hold the paint really well, and it seemed to flow off a lot better. And maybe that's because this is just such thin what do we call it, group of hairs here. I do like how whenever I start with this one, because the tip's a little more blunt, it seems to kind of have a nice rounded beginning to it, which I like. I think that paint might just be too thick too. We're going to really thin it out. We're going towards soup. Just a little thicker than soup over here. Let's try soup. Okay. I'm just dipping the brush in my high temp reducer and then paleting it back into that paint. So this is almost soup. On the back side of the line right about here, before mixing it into soup, that paint kept kind of getting thinned out and acting almost like it does when there's not enough paint on the brush or when the paint's kind of dry. So that's why I thinned it out so much. And it seems to work. Seems to work really good thin. Let's try a thick thin line. I'm just going to go across some stuff to save room. I can get a thick out of this, and I can pull it really thin, and I feel like I've got a lot of control. I don't know, right now I'm hard pressed between this and that last alpha brush, actually. Do that again. Just put them next to each other. Kind of looks nice for those straight lines to go through these curves. There's contrast of straight to curve, or curvilinear if we want to get all fancy. Let's try the thin, thick, thin. Ooh, that went thick really fast and didn't feel as controlled as with the last brush. Palette a little bit better. Try that again. Thin, thick, thin, and I didn't go as thick, so I'm having some issues with that. Yeah, it's not as easy to do the thin, thick, thin with this brush as it was with the other. Let's try the thick, thin, thick. Yeah, it goes to thick really fast. You don't get that nice, clean, gradual line, which, you know, I'm sure I can get my hand to where I can control that. Let's try it one more time. Let's go thin, and I'm going to really slowly put that pressure in there. Thick and thin. It's just not as nice as that one was, right? Or there. I like the edge that I'm getting on my paint. I like my thinness of my lines here versus that other one a little bit. But when it comes to doing that thick to thin and thin to thick, that other brush really handled it better. So, pluses and minuses there, right? Let's try a figure 8 before we run out of room. I'm going to go, I don't know, we'll go thick on it. Let's go this way. Trying to slow down, make that really gradual. Pulls that curve kind of nice. My paint on my brush is about to glob up towards the end of the brush. It's not paleted very well. There it went. It's kind of sliding off of these hairs having that much paint on them. So I'm going to try it one more time. I'm going to pay real attention to my paleting, make sure that it's pretty even on that brush, and we'll try it again. We went thick. Let's give it a little bit more curve this time. Thin. Oh, I feel like I'm running out of paint. Total downfall versus one of those brushes that's made specifically for scrolling. Yeah, that was not good. Let's thin it out. And maybe it's because I tried to make sure it was really consistent on the brush there. Maybe I got most of the paint out of it. I don't know. I'm going to have to go over some other stuff because I want to save some room for those other brushes. So let's say thick, thin. Let's go thick. I like thick and thins. I think that's one of the things I like the most about scrolling, or what I see people do with scrolling, versus the more old school, or I don't know what you want to call it. I've tried to adapt a lot of thick and thins to my designs, even though I'm still kind of sticking with more of a traditional style. Let's go ahead and clean this out and try another brush. Alright, that last brush was a size 0. This is a size 4, Mack Virus 2. Size 4 is the size on it. There's Virus and Virus 2 brushes. This is the Virus 2 brushes. I'm not 100% sure what the difference is, mostly because I'm just not looking it up at the moment. I've tried both. They are different. I just don't know how to describe it right now. Still got quite a bit of paint from that last spot that I paletted, so I'll probably just keep paletting right there while it's still good. I'm assuming this is going to have a much bigger line because it's a much bigger size brush, but it comes to more of a point than that other one did. The other one stayed real consistent as it came out in its size almost all the way to the end. I love these brushes for details. Sometimes I outline with them. A lot of times if I'm doing characters, I outline with a Virus. And I have lettered with these. They're pretty nice for lettering. Scripts and all. So, go back to our ear shape. Feels really nice. Right here's the spot that always gets me. I slowed down on it because I'm training myself here. I can see where the paint got thinner, kind of kicked out a little bit, but I'm learning to control that. I'm going to thin this paint a little more. Try it again. Getting a feel for how the paint needs to be for scrolling, as well as like how fast I need to go, how I'm holding the brush. I see that I'm adopting this holding my wrist thing as opposed to sitting on top of it. I don't know. That's just what's naturally happening to me here. Let's try it with it sitting way on top. Makes my brush more up and down. Maybe that'll help. Doesn't feel as natural, but at the same time, being a little more elevated seems to help me get those curves a little better, and I had less of a problem right here, so maybe this is better. I don't know how you guys practice. If you make videos and you've got videos of you practicing, I've seen some other people out there, tag me in it or something. I'd love to see what your practice routines are. Oh, my paint's way too thin there. It's actually breaking apart on that back side there. So that was me thinning it out a lot. However, I just went into some thicker paint, so I need to thin that back down some more. I can feel that this is holding a whole lot more paint than that last brush did. Okay, let's go over here and we'll try the thin, thick, thin. Oh, that feels good again. That actually looks maybe better than that one, except for the ending. Let's try it. See if we can control that ending a little bit more. And I'm really blunt on the beginning. Let's see if we can get rid of that too. Didn't get rid of that bluntness. But maybe on the back side here, can be a little thicker and more consistent. So I slowed down as I come in. I got a little part that came off. Flick the brush up there. That's a control issue. Try that again. I feel like if you're going to practice anything, you need to practice it every day. So I'm going to try and practice this every day, and we'll say for a week, see what happens. Let's do a figure 8. Get that a little thinner. This time when I do my figure 8, I'm going to try and start thin and go to thick and see what happens. Let's get back up on there. We'll go thick in the cross part of it. Went thick real fast and didn't mean to there. Let's keep that thin as it comes through so there's a contrast on the two lines. Maybe we come out this way. Let's go back again. Make a parallel thick line. Ooh, I like that. Let's kick it out. Starting to play around with the design. My paint must be too thin though, you see. I don't know if you guys can see there. I'll try and get this way closer for you. It's bleeding out. I've got it really thin. Feels good, but at the same time, it's kicking out like that. Let's make one of those moves. Hopefully you guys can see this here and see if it'll kick out again. My paint's thicker this time. Slowed down on it too, see if that helps. I tried going too tight on that corner. Probably can pull a tighter corner than I am. And I'm getting all over the place because my camera's so close and I'm trying not to hit it. Probably not a good idea to have the camera so close to the scrolls. Okay. We're going to try another brush. Alright, this time I'm using a Tidwell. It says one liner. The other one that I have says a slim, and that's the one that's longer. This one's got a little bit shorter hair, a little bit skinnier hair. Might have enough paint over here. Yeah, I've got enough. I don't need to dip back into my cup. Something interesting, I listened to an interview a little while back. I believe it was a Gnarly magazine interview with him, their podcast deal. And he said that he doesn't think there's any one way to use his brushes. He's interested in people using them, how they work for them, and him, you know, finding out from them how they use them. So this might not be a scroll brush, but that's how we're going to use it and see what happens. Synthetic hairs, shorter than what we've been using. Good control. There's that one corner that gives me problems, and it did kick out a little bit even though I did slow down. Let's try it again. Oh, had a little bit of trash on the end of my brush there. All right. If y'all like this content of me just sitting here practicing and talking, let me know. If it's totally annoying, let me know that too, and then I won't make any more. This is not bad. I don't know that I like it as much as the last one, but I kind of like it. I feel like I can go tighter with this brush. Maybe it's because of the smaller or shorter hairs. It seems to turn a tighter curve, and that kind of feels good. So maybe I could scroll with this one. Let's try the thick and thin. Let's go up here. It pulls a thick, and it doesn't seem to go thin too fast. Let's try it the other way around, because I feel like before, whenever I went thin and then went to thick, some of these brushes, it went too fast. And it doesn't feel too fast on it. It is a little faster than those first brushes. I don't like the way that ended, so I'm going to do it again and try and do it better. Let's end it with a little pointy end, and then let's try it one more time and end it, see if we can end it with almost more like a teardrop end. That was blunt and I ended up messing up. So, practice makes perfect. We're going to do it again. If I pull up on it a little bit, that's better. More control. What else have we been doing? Figure eights. We'll try a figure eight. Scoot down here. Let's thin. I like the going to thick here, design wise. Kind of reminds me of some what I've heard called spaghetti or cat guts that you would have at the bottom of letters and some old school lettering stuff. I always thought it was funny, but that's what I've heard it called, as cat guts when you see this at the bottom. You know, probably not PC or nice to animals. Got no problems with cats. My daughter's cat at the house is a nice cat. I could work with this brush. Again, I could work with a couple of these brushes. I could work with this Wizard Vortex. I could work with this, was it Twister, Alpha Twister. I feel like I could work with this Mack Virus too. The ones I'm liking the most so far are the synthetic ones. I'm sure that's not the case with everybody. Like I said, I know quite a few people that use the Dagos, which I think they're a full natural. I don't think they're a blend. I don't have a Kafka here. I do know that the Kafka brushes are a blend between natural hairs and synthetic hairs. My friend Freddie really likes those. Now my paint was way too thin there. Let's get it loaded up and not so thin. Try that one more time. Scoot you guys up here. We're starting to run out of brushes. I realize I have one more brush I want to try with this. Now this is interesting. On those other brushes, when I went in this direction, they didn't feel as good and as clean as controlled as they did when I went in this direction. This one almost feels the opposite. I don't know if maybe that's just me or what, but it's interesting. We'll do one more here and then I've got to jump to another brush. Running out of paint, running out of time. I'll just kind of mess around and get the rest of the paint out of this. You see how it's got kind of a dry brush effect at the end of that. Okay, what happens if we dry brush scroll? I don't know. I've never tried it. I don't have as much control. Oh, it's almost like the brush is skipping along. Not a good idea, I don't think. Okay, next brush. Alright, this should be interesting because this is the same kind of hair as that last brush. It's just way longer. And actually the brush handle has a little bit different shape to it. Not too much, but if you notice like where the bump is on this one's got a big fatter bump that feels a little pushed up higher. I don't know. Maybe it'll make a difference, maybe it won't. Believe it or not, these hairs feel a little stiffer than those last ones did. I was thinking about it, you know, different people I see that do scrolls. I mentioned that I know Freddie likes those Kafka brushes. Loki over in Dallas, great scroll striper. I know he uses the Dagos. Sat next to him at quite a few events, talked to him every now and then. Really nice guy. He likes those. I see Steve Shizeka, another great master of scroll work. Looks like he uses any brush he can get his hands on. Maybe that's why they call him the Wizard. I'm not sure if this Wizard Vortex brush is one of his brushes. I know he's got a couple out there that he's helped develop. That's the only one I have that I think was one of his. That feels like it's got a lot more drag, almost like that Alpha Brush did. Interesting, this feels a little more like that Alpha Brush. It didn't feel as stiff in the hairs, but it's got the same kind of drag to it. Let's get it a lot thinner and see. Alright. Oop. Next time I practice scrolls, I actually won't be able to tomorrow. I'm going to a car show tomorrow. Sunday's my day off. Monday, driving to Houston. It's like a 4.5 hour drive or something. So it might be Tuesday when I'm in Houston before I can practice again. Let's try this the other way. Ooh, that had a lot of hair. Or a lot of paint. Kind of like those natural hair scroll brushes were holding paint. In fact, the hairs on the end of this seem to be gathered a lot like those were. Even a lot like that one. They're longer. It's interesting. Much longer. Relatively much longer. We're talking about hairs. I don't feel like I've got as much control. My line seems a little shakier. I like the handle a lot. Let's do a thick to thin. So I see a lot of guys that are scroll stripers, you know, they'll come in on a design and give a whole bunch of these thick to thins where it almost ends up looking like feathers. I see, we mentioned Steve Shizeka. I see he does that a lot, and then he'll come back off of one of them maybe and do a curve, or maybe he does the curves first. I don't know. We're playing around here, right? Let's try and go back the other way and see what happens. Something about this brush that doesn't feel as controlled to me as some of the others. The hairs on it do seem to twist around well, and I'm really just kind of keeping going here because I'm looking at how they twist. They twist around pretty good, but there's something about them that feels a little more springy maybe. Okay, this was the last out of the brushes that I had showed you, but I want to try one other brush that I have, so I'm going to go clean this one out and get it. Okay, this brush, I guess it's not focusing on it here. Alright, this brush is a Dragonfly by Ted Turner. These are also made by Mack. This is a size 2. A lot of these other brushes seem to be size 2, so I figured I'd grab that size. The hairs on this one, I would say, are pretty springy. They kind of have some of the qualities that this twister did, but they're not as coarse feeling. They feel, I don't know, maybe a little bit more like the virus hairs. You know, it could be all in my head. Maybe all these synthetic hairs that we have here are all the same. I don't know. I'm not a brush developer. I haven't worked with anybody brushes. I'm still, compared to a lot of folks in this game, a greenhorn. Definitely not the guy to be out there with all that experience developing brushes. Learning stuff for scrolls right here, right now. I am as green as probably anybody watching the video. Oh, started off kind of squirrely there. This has a nice feel to it. It kind of feels like the Alpha Snakebite did, but I feel like it holds a little bit more paint. Man, that had good control to it. Can't say I've ever seen Ted Turner do scrolls. He's got his own style that is amazing. Totally different than anybody else out there, and anyone who's doing stuff that looks like his. Pretty sure influenced by him. Man, I like the feel of that. Again, I'm finding that I like synthetic hairs. I just feel like I have more control. Let's do one of those pulled down turnaround deals. Oh, I'm holding my wrist again, which before we said didn't seem to be as versatile as when I'm hand on fist. So let's try hand on fist. I want to scoot this down because I'm running out of table space here. Alright, hand on fist. Now I do notice that I'm starting off way more blunt, which I kind of like. I do get a little kick out up there. I've already forgot what brush it was. I think it was that snakebite brush that started off blunt like that. This one's very similar to that, and the fact that the hairs don't start fat and get skinny, they kind of keep the same consistency all the way down. Let's go down and up. Yeah, I could probably get used to using this brush. So I think going forward, I'm gonna be using synthetic brushes. Let's do like those teardrops there. Fat to skinny. Oh, it went skinny kind of quick there. And you know, that would be me figuring out how to make it work. I don't know that there's one brush, you know, that's gonna work for this. I'm sure there's many that are gonna feel good to me. Might have my paint a little too thin there. I'm not having the control on the end of that as I did there. Could be how my hand was too. Let's try back up on that fist. Oh yeah, more control. Way more. That's something I think I'm going to have to teach myself. If you're a scroll striper out there and you're watching this and laughing at me or whatnot, tell me in the comments, man. Hand over fist work for you, holding your wrist. I've seen some people that their hands way back over here under their elbow and they're floating. Maybe we try that real quick. Yeah, let's try it. Let's see, while we do it, let's do the thin to thick to thin. Oh, feels kind of nice with the thin to thick to thin. Talking about how the brush feels. My hand being way back here, I mean, it's not bad. It gives me actually a little bit more control in a way. Totally running out of room here. I want to try a figure 8. Kind of like those figure eights, they look nice. I don't feel like my hand's in a good position on that. I feel like I'm bending the brush too much. That's not the brush, that's me. Yeah, this back on the elbow's not helping me as much as being right here was with that kind of stuff. Interesting. Very interesting. What have I not done that I did on these? I don't know. Oh, let's try the thick to thin to thick. Hard to go back to thick. Oh, and I forgot what I was doing there. Thick, thin, thick. Let's give it a point. Oh, got away from me. I think on this one it's easier for it to get away from me on the ends. So I don't know. I think right now if I had to choose which brush to keep practicing with, I don't know. For me, honestly, I think it's going to be one of these. And looking back at my lines, I don't think it's going to be that one. I don't know. Somewhere in those. I think I'm going to leave this one off too. Just for me, it seemed to be a little too, I don't know if springy is the word, towards the end. Harder for me to control. So tomorrow or whenever it is I get to practice this again, I think I'm just going to stick with those three brushes and figure out which one of those I like the most. Sit down low here where you guys can see me while I clean this up. Kind of on our outro here. I'm just using mineral spirits. Again, it's kind of one of the nice things of being on this painted surface. With glass, I can let it dry and scrape it off. With this, I'm going to clean it with mineral spirits, breaking it up. Use this time here to kind of plug our podcast. I'm trying to get better about that in these videos. That's Freddie Villa and myself. He's Via Pinstriping on YouTube. Our podcast is Pinstripers Podcast. We interview well-known pinstripers usually. I don't know, maybe sometimes not so well-known. And kind of get their stories. People have been in the industry for a long time. If we can, some rising stars maybe. But really good interviews. Really enjoy that. I think it's some of the best content that I'm helping put out there. Might as well take the time here too to plug my website. My wife's been working pretty hard lately to add new products and stuff to that. Things that I've had made here around the shop that I haven't put up for sale just because I don't know how to work that kind of stuff. She's learning it. She's got more time to figure it out. It's kind of her job here while I paint stuff. Anyhow, that's jackflemingartistry.com. I've got art prints there, shirts. I'm hoping to start putting some of my pinstriping panels and stuff up there. Just got to get around to taking pictures of them. Please, I know this is a long video. It's practice. It's real time. If you guys like this, let me know. If you've stuck around this long, thank you. It helps with YouTube. But practice, you know. Get the right kind of surface. Try different brushes. Try different consistencies with your paint. A big part of practicing is messing around and figuring it out. If something's not working, adjust what you're doing, right? If the paint feels too thick, thin it out. If it feels too thin, maybe clean your brush out and start over with paint that hasn't been thinned out yet. Try different things. Figure it out. A lot of the people that have done this forever figured it all out on their own without YouTube or anyone helping them out. This is a great tool. I think for learning speeds things up. Maybe it gets somebody past that fear of trying things that they don't know. But keep your brushes wet. Again, love comments, feedback from people. There are so many people that are better at scrolling than I am. I stink at it, and I'm going to try and get better. And if you guys want to follow along with me, that's what this is for. Till then, y'all have a good day. Stay safe. Bye.